Bruce Lee stood barefoot on the training mats. The cage fighter's fist passed inches from Bruce's jaw. A second man drifted behind Bruce. Quiet, 5 seconds. A production assistant stared at a stopwatch. If Bruce lost balance, the shoot stopped. The fighter had dropped bigger men before. Bruce did not step back. His heel slid a fraction. Rubber squeaked. His breath broke. Just once, the fighter smiled like it was settled. "You are pure fake," not yelled. Delivered for everyone to hear. 3 seconds. Someone in the crew laughed once, then stopped. 2. The second man's shoulder turned too close. A hand hovered near a waistband. 1. The fighter surged forward for the clinch. Bruce staggered half a step. The crowd leaned in, and Bruce moved first. Not with violence, with a choice no one expected. "Wait, what?" The fighter came in hard, not wild, measured. His shoulder pressed into Bruce's chest. Bruce absorbed it. His feet slid on the rubber, a soft squeak. The second man stepped closer behind him, close enough to feel heat. 5 seconds. The production assistant's stopwatch ticked loud in the quiet. Bruce Lee shifted his weight, not away, sideways. The fighter's forearm rose, hunting for a collar grip. Bruce's breath broke. Just once. The crowd leaned in. Someone dropped a pen. It rolled across the floor. Bruce's back brushed the edge of a lighting stand. Metal rattled. The fighter smiled. He felt control coming. Bruce did not lift his hands. He kept them low, open. The fighter drove again. Chest to chest. Bruce staggered half a step. His heel slipped. For a moment, his balance was gone. Not much. Enough. A camera operator turned his face away. 3 seconds. The second man's shoe scraped behind Bruce. Space collapsed. Bruce felt the pressure from both sides. The fighter's grip tightened at Bruce's shoulder. Not violent, confident. He whispered something under his breath. Bruce did not answer. He listened. He felt where the weight was going. The fighter shifted forward. Too early. Bruce rotated his hips a fraction. The forearm brushed past his ribs. Bruce's back cleared the stand. He was still upright, barely. 2 seconds. The production assistant said nothing. His thumb hovered over the stop button. If Bruce went down, the shoot was over. The fighter crowded again. He wanted the clinch. He wanted to prove something. Bruce felt the mat under his toes. He let his heel settle. The second man reached forward, just a touch. Bruce moved his shoulder. The hand missed. 1 second. The fighter surged. Bruce's chest folded inward. Air left his lungs. His eyes closed for a blink. The crowd inhaled together, and Bruce turned. Not fast. Precise. He stepped off the line. The fighter stumbled into empty space. Bruce did not strike. He placed his palm against the man's sternum. Light contact. Enough to stop momentum. The second man froze. No one spoke. Bruce stood there, breathing slow, hands open, shirt untouched. 5 seconds had passed. The stopwatch beeped. The half-circle formed without anyone asking for it. Crew members drifted closer. A boom operator stepped back. Someone shut a side door to keep sound from leaking. The space around Bruce tightened, not with bodies but with attention. Every face pointed toward the center of the mat. The fighter rolled his shoulders once, slow and deliberate. He wanted everyone to see that he was still standing, that he had not been embarrassed. His jaw worked as he swallowed. Then he lifted his chin and looked directly at Bruce. "I flew here for this," he said. His voice was steady, but his hands were not. He gestured toward Bruce, then toward the cameras stacked against the wall. "People watch you and think this is real. They think fancy movement makes a fighter, but they have never been inside a cage. They do not know what it feels like when another man is trying to fold you in half." Bruce listened. He did not shift his feet. He did not blink. The fighter took a step closer. Not aggressive, just claiming space. "I buried friends who fought for real," he continued. "And then I see this, slow motion kicks, camera angles, sound effects." He shook his head. "You make it look easy." Someone in the crew cleared their throat. Bruce's eyes stayed on the man's chest, not his face. He watched the rise and fall of breathing, the way weight settled on the front foot, the slight tremor in the fighter's fingers. A grip was forming, not on Bruce, on the story the man was telling himself. The second man lingered near the edge of the lights, pretending to check a cable. He did not leave. Neither did authority. A location manager stood 10 feet away, arms folded. calculating whether this was about to become a problem. Bruce finally spoke. Quiet. I do not make it easy, he said. I make it clear. The fighter laughed once. Short, sharp. You make people believe lies. Bruce held his gaze. You believe I am lying because you are hurting, Bruce said. Those are not the same thing. The room went still. A clipboard slipped from someone's arm and hit the floor. No one bent to pick it up. The fighter exhaled hard through his nose. His jaw tightened. His eyes dropped for half a second, then came back up. Confidence had brought him here. Now something else was taking over. Frustration. The fighter began to circle. Not wide, tight. He kept his shoulders squared to Bruce, drifting just enough to test angles, just enough to crowd space. His foot brushed the edge of the mat, then stepped back in. He was looking for a reaction. Bruce did not give him one. The fighter bumped Bruce Sipp's shoulder with his own. Light contact. A message. Bruce absorbed it and stayed where he was. A murmur moved through the crew. Someone whispered Bruce's name. Another person shook their head. The fighter leaned in again, this time closer, his forearm grazing Bruce's chest, as if by accident. He wanted Bruce to flinch. He wanted Bruce to raise his hand so he could say he had won something. Bruce kept his arms low, open, relaxed. That unsettled the fighter more than resistance would have. You going to do anything? The fighter asked. Bruce watched his breathing, watched how the man shifted weight before every step. You already are, Bruce said quietly. The fighter frowned. What? You are telling me everything, Bruce continued, with your feet. The fighter snorted and stepped in harder, chest to chest. Bruce rocked back half an inch, then reset. The second man moved closer again, pretending to adjust a light stand. His reflection appeared in a piece of polished equipment. Bruce caught it without turning his head. The fighter Sip's confidence was still there, but it had started to leak. His movements became sharper, less patient. He threw a quick feint toward Bruce's face, not to hit, just to provoke. Bruce shifted his head a fraction. The punch passed close enough to stir air across his cheek. A camera assistant inhaled. The fighter smiled, encouraged. There, he said. That was real. Bruce said nothing. The fighter tried again, this time stepping across Bruce's lead foot, attempting to crowd him into the lighting rig behind. Bruce felt the pressure at his back and angled his hips, creating just enough space to stay balanced. The fighter Sep's jaw tightened. He wanted dominance. He wanted proof. Each time Bruce refused to perform, the fighter pushed harder. His voice rose, his shoulders lifted, his breathing lost rhythm. Frustration crept into his eyes. This was no longer about exposing a fraud. This was about not being ignored. The location manager took one step forward, then stopped. Bruce noticed, so did the second man. The circle narrowed, and the fighter, feeling the eyes on him, made a choice. He lunged, not wild, desperate. The lunge came fast. The fighter drove forward, shoulder first, trying to collapse Bruce's balance and force him into a clinch. Bruce absorbed the impact through his hips and stepped sideways, but the mat grabbed his foot for a fraction of a second. Not enough to fall, enough to feel it. The crowd reacted with a sharp intake of breath. The second man moved. Not running, walking. He closed the gap from behind and reached toward Bruce's upper arm, pretending it was concern. It was not. Bruce rolled his shoulder just as the fingers brushed fabric. The grip never formed. The location manager raised a hand. That Sep's enough, he said, uncertain. No one listened. The fighter stayed tight, chest forward, trying to trap Bruce between his body and the lighting stand. Bruce's back touched metal again. The stand rattled softly. Authority was now part of the circle. A security guard appeared near the doorway, scanning faces instead of the fighters. The rules had changed. This was no longer a personal challenge. It was a scene with consequences. The fighter felt it too. His eyes flicked toward the guard, then back to Bruce. He did not slow down. He drove a forearm toward Bruce's collarbone. Not full force, but enough to claim space. Bruce shifted his frame and let the pressure slide across him, redirecting it into empty air. The fighter overcommitted, just slightly. Bruce felt it. He stepped offline, but his heel caught again. His balance wavered. For a split second, his shoulder dipped. A sound went through the crew. Someone whispered, "Oh." The fighter surged, sensing the opening. His hand shot toward Bruce Sipp's collar. Bruce raised his forearm to intercept, but the contact landed awkwardly, pushing Bruce sideways instead of stopping the entry. His back brushed the stand. Metal rang. The second man hesitated, unsure whether to join in. Security took 2 steps forward. Bruce Sepp's breathing changed. Short, controlled. He was running out of space. The fighter crowded closer, pressing chest to chest, trying to pin Bruce in place and prove, in front of everyone, that movement meant nothing. Bruce lowered his center of gravity. Not to fight, to survive the pressure. The stopwatch beeped again. The production assistant looked up. Pale. The fighter whispered, almost pleading now, "Stand and fight." Bruce did not answer. He waited. And that pause cost him. The fighter drove his weight forward one more time. Bruce Sepp's foot slid. His shoulder dropped. For the first time, he was truly off balance. Bruce caught himself on instinct. Not strength, structure. His foot slid back into place, but not cleanly. The mat dragged at his skin. His heel failed to settle. For a moment, his weight lived nowhere. The fighter felt it. He drove in harder, chest pressed tight, forearm cutting across Bruce Sepp's shoulder. Bruce Sepp's spine curved under the pressure. The lighting stand rattled again. Someone in the crew turned away. The second man froze mid-step, suddenly unsure of his role. Security closed another 2 feet. Bruce tried to pivot, but the fighter blocked his hip with his knee. It was not elegant. It was effective. Bruce's center drifted too far forward. His breath left him in a short, sharp release. The fighter whispered something too low to hear. Bruce did not respond. His eyes stayed open, focused. He felt the man's weight coming down through the front leg. He felt the grip tightening at his shoulder. This was the moment the fighter had been chasing. Bruce Sepp's back slid against metal. His palm touched the stand for balance. Just for a second, that second mattered. The fighter drove again. Bruce's head dipped. A strike passed close enough to brush his cheek. Heat. Air. The crowd made a sound that was not a word. The production assistant lifted his hand. If Bruce went down, the shoot stopped. Bruce Sepp's knee bent. His frame folded inward. Not collapse, compression. He absorbed the pressure through his hips and ankles, trying to find the mat again. The fighter leaned his full weight into it. This was no longer technique. This was force. Bruce felt the edge of panic rise. Not fear, urgency. His balance was almost gone. His shoulder burned. His lungs searched for space. For a heartbeat, everything narrowed to contact points. Foot, hip, chest, grip. He had waited too long. The fighter was inside. The second man finally stepped forward. Security shouted. And in that chaos, Bruce made his decision. He stopped resisting. He released his shoulder. He let the fighter Sepp's weight carry forward. And the moment the pressure shifted, Bruce turned. Not away, through. Bruce rotated through the pressure. Not fast, precise. He released his shoulder and let the fighter's weight spill forward, then stepped just outside the line of force. The clinch collapsed into empty space. The fighter stumbled half a step. Bruce stayed close, close enough to feel breath, close enough to feel heat. He did not strike. He placed his palm against the fighter's sternum and redirected the forward drive downward, sinking the man's momentum into the mat. It was not a shove. It was alignment. Hip, shoulder, hand moving together. The fighter Sepp's chest folded. Air left his lungs in a sharp burst. His eyes widened. Not from pain yet, but from confusion. Bruce shifted again. A small angle change. His forearm rose under the fighter's jaw, not with force, but with timing. Just enough lift to disrupt balance. Just enough to make the legs forget their job. The fighter staggered back. One step, then another. His hands came up late. Bruce did not chase. He stayed where he was, feet planted, hands open, breathing slow. The second man stopped moving. Security froze. No one spoke. The fighter tried to reset, but his coordination had slipped. His shoulders lifted as he searched for air. One hand dropped toward his chest, hovering where Bruce's palm had landed. The crew stood silent, watching something they did not understand. Bruce waited. The fighter blinked. Once, twice. His confidence drained out of his posture. He was still standing, but he was no longer fighting. Bruce took one calm step forward and then stopped. He did not press the advantage. He did not humiliate. He simply looked at the man. The fighter's jaw tightened, not in anger, but in effort. He tried to straighten, tried to reclaim something in front of the crowd, but his body betrayed him. A whisper moved through the crew. Someone shook their head. The production assistant lowered the stopwatch. Bruce finally spoke, soft. He is finished. Not as a declaration, as a statement of fact. The fighter exhaled slowly and nodded once, barely visible. He understood. Bruce turned his body slightly sideways, creating space. A release of pressure, an invitation to recover dignity. The fighter did not rush away. He stayed where he was, breathing carefully, eyes fixed on Bruce with something new in them. Recognition. Bruce Sipp's shirt was still smooth, his breathing steady, his hands relaxed at his sides. 7 quiet movements. That was all it took. And everyone in that room felt it, not as violence, as certainty. The fighter stood very still. His chest rose and fell in shallow waves. He tried to lift his chin. It did not quite make it. Around them, the crew slowly remembered how to breathe. Someone shifted a camera case with a soft scrape. A lighting technician wiped sweat from his neck. No one rushed forward. The silence felt heavier than the contact had. The fighter opened his mouth, then closed it again. Whatever he had planned to say did not survive the moment. His eyes dropped to the mat. That was when it happened. Not loudly, not dramatically. His shoulders sank, just a fraction. But everyone saw it. Confidence had brought him here. Frustration had pushed him. Desperation had driven him forward. Now there was only humility. Bruce Lee stepped closer, not into his space. Beside it, he extended one open hand, not as a challenge, not as a victory gesture, just there, waiting. The fighter stared at it. His jaw worked as he swallowed. For a few seconds, pride fought for its last breath. Then his hand rose and met Bruce Sipp's. The grip was brief, real. Bruce nodded once. "You have good timing," Bruce said quietly. "But you give your weight away too early." The fighter blinked. He had expected dismissal. He had expected ridicule. He had not expected instruction. Bruce continued, still calm. "You watch my hands. You should watch my center. The body lies. The center tells the truth." The fighter nodded slowly. He did not speak. He was listening now. Bruce released his hand and stepped back, creating space again. A gift. The location manager finally cleared his throat. "We need to reset." People began to move. Slowly at first, a boom mic rose. A clipboard was picked up. The rhythm of work returned in cautious pieces. But the fighter did not leave. He stood at the edge of the mat, watching Bruce walk back toward the director, watching the man who had just undone him return to his job without ceremony. A production assistant approached him with a bottle of water. "You okay?" she asked. He took it, did not open it. "I fought in cages," he said quietly, eyes still on Bruce. "I fought men who wanted to hurt me." He paused. "I never felt that." She did not know what to say. Neither did he. Across the room, Bruce was already discussing camera angles, completely absorbed in the next scene, as if none of it had happened. But for the fighter, something fundamental had shifted. He had come to expose a fraud. Instead, he had discovered a mirror, and he did not recognize the man looking back. The fighter came back 3 days later, not with an audience, not with noise. Early morning, before cameras, before crew, he stood at the edge of the mat with his shoes in his hands and waited. Bruce Lee arrived alone, no entourage, no warm-up performance, just a quiet walk across the studio floor. Bruce stopped in front of him. "You returned," Bruce said. The fighter nodded. "I did not sleep." Bruce studied his posture, the way his weight settled, the way his shoulders held memory. "Why?" The fighter looked down, then back up. "Because I was wrong." Bruce did not answer right away. He gestured toward the mat. "Leave the shoes." The fighter obeyed. They began without ceremony. No sparring, no spectacle. Bruce showed him how to feel pressure through the soles of his feet, how to listen with his ribs, how to notice movement before it arrived. The fighter struggled at first. He kept reaching for techniques. Bruce stopped him. "You are still trying to win," Bruce said. The fighter swallowed. "Yes." Bruce shook his head. "You already lost that fight." They trained quietly for weeks. Some days they moved. Other days Bruce only spoke. About timing, about distance, about how the body tells the truth long before the mind accepts it. The fighter changed. His movements softened. His eyes lifted. He stopped forcing outcomes. One evening, after a long session, Bruce asked him a question. "Why did you really come?" The fighter stared at the wall. "I wanted to matter." Bruce nodded slowly. I understand that. He told him about being dismissed, about being told he did not fit, about building something when nothing was offered. The fighter listened, not as a challenger, as a man hearing himself in someone else's story. He never returned to the cages. He stayed in Hong Kong for months. He helped on set, held pads, carried equipment, listened more than he spoke. When Bruce passed the following year, the fighter did not attend the public ceremonies. He left quietly. Years later, people would say he opened a small gym. No signs, no advertisements. Only those who were serious ever found it. And when someone asked him about Bruce Lee, he always said the same thing. I went there to prove he was fake. He would pause, then add, 5 seconds later, I became a student. Then he would fall silent, because some lessons are not meant to be explained. They are meant to be lived.